Good morning, it's John's D&D Vlog, episode 11. Today I'm going to talk about experience points and leveling. This is the Cleric's Table from the Player's Handbook, 1st edition. Here on the left, it shows the number of experience points a player needs to accumulate in order to go up in levels. As they go up in levels, they get more hit points, they get more spells, their chances for hitting people in combat becomes easier, etc. This part is easy to understand, but as far as where players can get those experience points from is a little bit harder to understand. In newer modules, the XP for each encounter is usually listed with the encounter itself, but in older modules, like here in B2, the Keep on the Borderlands, no XP is listed. It's expected that the DM will go and figure all that out for himself. I just wanted to show you how to do that, how to calculate the number of experience points players should get after a particular fight. In 1st edition, all the experience point data is found in the back of the Dungeon Master's Guide. It has all the basic info on each monster there. So let's take a look at the XP for an orc. In 1st edition D&D, the method for calculating XP was kind of ornate. You got 10 points for the orc itself, but then you also got more hit points depending on how many hit points the orc had when you killed him. This was a really time-consuming process, and I think a lot of people were turned away from 1st edition D&D because of it. Let's look at an example of calculating XP 1st edition style. We'll go through it in a really complex way, just so you can see what it looks like once. But before we calculate the XP, there's an important side note here I wanted to address. It's about THAC0. In the newer modules, the THAC0 of all the monsters is usually listed in each area's description. In the old modules, though, it isn't. So where do you find that THAC0 info? So let's go back to the 1st edition Dungeon Master's Guide and look in the back few pages. Take a look at the header of the 3rd column, 2 hit armor class 0. Eventually that was turned into the abbreviation THAC0. So THAC0 was a thing even way back in 1st edition. It's not a 2nd edition invention. So I'm done with the side note. Let's get back to calculating XP. So let's look back at this Area 7 description from B2 Keep on the Borderlands. You've got 4 orcs with 5 hit points each in this area. So here's the chart I'll use to describe the process today. You don't have to make a chart up like this to do it, but perhaps at the beginning it might be a good idea. It might help you to not skip over anything important. In time, it does get easier. So let's start on the left and work our way over. So there were 4 orcs. So according to that 1st edition Dungeon Master's Guide page that I showed you, they were worth 10 points each, so 40, right? Next, they had a total of 5 hit points each, and as that one page in the 1st edition DMG said, they get 1 XP for each of their hit points, so therefore that's another 20. And then in the Dungeon Master's Guide on page 85, it says that you should also get experience points for the gold and other treasure that you find after the fight. This is a little controversial. Some DMs don't like doing this, but I'm going to teach it because it's what the books say, but you do what you want to do. Between all of them, they had 18 Electrum pieces. That's equal to 9 gold pieces, therefore they would get another 9 experience points. If you play this rule strictly, this means that the PCs could get all sorts of XP if they manage to take the belongings of the monsters and sell them somewhere. As DM, you're going to have to adjudicate this fairly. I'll show you what I do later on. Next, if there are any magic items, those all have their own specific XP values attached to them. Just look through the magic item tables on pages 121 to 125 to see those values. And as with other treasure, if your PCs manage to sell them, they'll even get more XP on top of that because of the gold that they got. Like I said, it is a controversial rule. You're going to have to choose what you want to do as DM. Just make your own decisions. And then lastly, sometimes in modules, they'll ask you to give bonus XP to players who succeed in achieving a specific task, or with people who came up with a good idea. It's all really subjective, and I don't do it too much, but it does happen. It's up to you. So anyway, once you've added all that up, you have to divide it by the number of players in your group. In this instance, it's 5. And then you hand that XP out to the players after each fight. The players themselves are the ones to keep track of all the running totals over time. Sometimes, though, there's going to be a monster whose XP value isn't listed in the back of the DMG. What do you do then? So this is the chart you use. It's on page 85 of the 1st edition Dungeon Master's Guide. Be careful with it, though. It seems to be pretty subjective. One person will use the chart and come up with 1 XP value, whereas another might come up with something completely different. So even after you've consulted this chart as best as you can, you're still going to need to use your own wisdom in making these decisions sometimes. So anyway, just do it a bunch of times and you'll get used to it. But anyway, this is how it's done. As for 2nd edition, Monster XP was just included in the Monstrous Manual with each monster's data. You didn't need several books to find things out. Also, a simple number was just awarded. You didn't get extra depending on his hit point total. It made things easier too. For the non-standard monsters, for those not included in the Monstrous Manual, they included an entire chapter in the Dungeon Master's Guide on it, Chapter 8. To me, this whole system looked pretty complex and perhaps overly detailed, but I must admit that I haven't studied it thoroughly. I'm still content with the chart that I'm using from the first edition Dungeon Master's Guide. So anyway, I guess it's a good thing we have DM's rule number 1. The DM can do as he wishes. You can go through and cherry pick just the stuff that you want to use, which is what I do. So that was my entire explanation on experience points. I tried to keep it as short and as helpful as I could. For the record though, I don't actually agree with the idea of experience points. Killing things in order to increase your own personal power and strength. Honestly speaking, that's creepy. It sounds like the kind of game a vampire would make. There just seems to be something inherently unhealthy and kind of creepy about the idea, especially when you realize that this game is very often played by children. I'm not trying to be an overbearing religious fanatic right now, but in all honesty, killing things to increase your own power, that's kind of creepy. Back in 1983, this module was released, and they looked at experience points a little differently. Part of this module shows a way for experience points to be handed out when specific achievements were accomplished. Not just when you kill stuff, but when the players actually got something done. Sometimes something dying was not the trigger for the reward. Sometimes the rewards were given out just simply for solving a problem, even if non-violent methods were used. I have a different solution. I just count up the number of XP an entire module is worth beforehand, and then I choose different locations within the module to be my milestones. When players get to those milestones, that's when I give out XP. And it depends, of course, on how well they achieved the particular goal that they should have reached by that milestone. So, in effect, I haven't really broken the relationship between killing things and experience points. I've just made it so that it's not a direct relationship. It makes the relationship not as obvious. For the record, I think doing it like this makes the game more realistic as well. Sometimes players who get XP just for killing will go out and just start killing things just to get XP. No one would actually do that. If someone were doing it, it would just look odd, not to mention pretty dang psychotic. I mean, think about Raiders of the Lost Ark for a second. When Indiana Jones snuck into the Nazi camp in the desert in order to get the Ark of the Covenant and to free his girlfriend, if he were only thinking about XP, he would have systematically killed every Nazi there before he proceeded on to getting the artifact. Instead, he just focused on his objective, just the artifact. Most of those Nazis survived. So, when you break the relationship between experience points and killing somewhat, or at the very least you soften it, in my opinion, the game becomes more realistic, wiser, in my opinion. So, anyway, thanks a lot. I guess this is all I have to say about experience points. You're going to have to figure out what you personally want to do. You're just going to have to do it enough so that you finally figure out what you're comfortable with. But anyway, this is what I do. I guess that's all I have to say today. Have a good week. Have a lot of fun. Have a nice day.